going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a little leech today. In my opinion, this is kind of a middle leech. I've been on a little bit of a leech kick just because I swear the few that I tied and used last year, they just were absolute hammers. I couldn't keep them off. So I've been getting into these leeches this year, and I want to have kind of a variety of different sizes and colors and all of this stuff. And so what I'm going to tie today is this little red one. I've got an Umpqua XC400 BL in size 8. Just a awesome hook. I've tied a couple up 46, 47 Daiichis. This is a 7/32, just metallic red tungsten bead. I've got some squirrel on here. I've been using a ton of squirrel lately. I've got 0.015 lead wire on there to stabilize the bead, but also just to add a little bit more weight to it. I'm going to go between two different threads. I'm going to start off with 70 denier black, and then I'm going to end up switching to 140 just because I want to build up a little bit of a body, and makes for a little bit of a quicker video if I do the 140. And then the flash on this, I've just been putting a little bit of flash. I put it's just gonna be hollow tinsel medium. I've got just about a 3-inch strip of leech here. Again, I've kind of been going back and forth on lengths and size of hook and stuff like that. I'm gonna have this one be a little bit longer. The fish I caught last year didn't seem to mind the smaller hook on the longer strip. They seemed to just engulf it anyway, and so I figured I would just have a little bit bigger of a bait or a tail hanging off, and I'm not missing any more fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to first measure this out, because I don't want to waste anything, but also I want to have this really tight on my hook. And so I'll kind of just measure that out a little bit, and I'll just kind of put my finger there. I'm going to pull some of these hairs up, and I'm just going to rest that right on top. You can kind of wet your fingers, and that material seems to listen. I'll cord up this 70 denier, and I'm just going to run it right along my fingers just to try and keep that right on top. Get a couple tight wraps. This is why I'm using that 70, because I don't want to build up too much here, but I also want to make sure that it's stable and it's not going to go anywhere. And now I can kind of wrap on the other side, kind of like if you're doing a sandworm worm or something, and you just wrap under. And then I'm going to come and whip finish right here, and I'll switch to my 140, and I'll put down my thread too. So I've got my 140 right here, and I'll just start laying that down. Don't want to hit that material. The squirrel. Squirrel is just a great thin strip. If you do this with rabbit, not that you can't, I just find it to be a little bit too big, too bulky. I want this to be a bigger bait, quote unquote. If I'm going to tie like a 4-inch or bigger, which is a pretty massive leech, then I will go with the rabbit. But I have pretty much used an entire bag of black squirrel. I've got a brown one I can show you at the end too. I'm gonna make a body that is not tapered. I don't want a tapered flash body here. I want this bait, this underside, to be even, which I don't know if that's weird or not. You can comment below if that's not a good decision by me. Just gonna put this tinsel in. I'll just put it on my side just to make things easier. And I'll come pretty far back there. Make sure my thread is flat. And I'll just come up. You can make this as big as you want. I'm not gonna make it much bigger than this because this is, again, one of the smaller kind of sizes. This is gonna be under 3 inches. 3 inches might sound like a bigger bait, but with how thin this gets in the water, when this squirrel gets wet, it definitely shrinks. So I'll just wrap this up all the way, just touching wraps all the way up. I'm going to end up covering up the last little bit of this with thread and materials and stuff, but just for the sake of doing it, I'll just wrap all the way up, kind of push that back and secure that down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I want to make sure, get some of these hairs out of the way, and I want to make sure that this is going to be tight on there. If I can get it down, and what you can do if you so choose, I've done it on, I don't know, maybe half. If you don't necessarily like the that little thread bump, I'm just trying to get all of this hide out of the way, and I can wrap some of it down too. But you can take a little bit more of that squirrel. You can just take off. I've got a little strip here. You could just pull off a little bit of that strip and cover it, especially on top. Maybe I'll do that. So I'm just gonna strip off a little bit, even it out. And this is just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. But you can just put that right there. Again, make sure your thread's corded, just to kind of cover up some of that stuff. But I should have switched back to my 70 because I'm building up a nice little collar here. But that's pretty much it. Now, there's a couple things you can do differently that I've done, and I can show you in just a sec. So I'll get that whip finished off and I'll trim it. Now what I've done with a couple other ones, and maybe I'll end up doing it with this too, just to increase some of that durability on the tinsel. This first one that I showed you at the beginning, I put a little bit of Solarez there. I'm not gonna on this one, just because I'm just experimenting a little bit. I'm gonna put both these in water and kind of see how they look, which one is more reflective and which one, I mean, it's gonna definitely add durability, so it might be a good idea, but I'm not gonna put it on this one just yet. I've got, this one was a Daiichi 4647. I did all black, longer tail for sure, just a super bright bead though, just as an attractor. But black, I think this was black Flashaboo or something like that. And what I did on a couple others, I didn't do it for this video just because I ended up doing just a little bit of a rabbit or a squirrel dubbing loop right at the end. But as you can see, it's gonna cover up a lot of that flash. And so I kind of wanted that flash to be kind of a focal point in the jig. And so after I tied this one, I mean, I might do a couple more like this, but it definitely just kind of covers up that flash. It'll seep through a little bit, but again, I want that flash to be pretty prominent. Super cool. These Leech patterns are a lot of fun. Squirrel comes in a few different colors. I've probably got, I don't know, half a dozen or so different colors there. Really fun little pattern. I kind of think of like a little Mohawk when I'm tying these up, maybe a Mohawk Leech or something like that. But Fun little pattern, just an absolute killer in the water. Fish cannot resist this. And I might even do a video of downsizing these, just really, really small to like maybe even an inch for just bull bluegills and big slab crappies too. But Junior's Fishing Company, like and subscribe, drop some comments below. See you in the next one.